Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Selby series. Selby is one of 11 subdivisions of the county of North Yorkshire. It's made up of 74 civil parishes, a lot of which are very small. Which one are we in this week? Last week in the district of Selby we visited South Duffield. This week we're in its northern counterpart. This is much bigger and it's a parish in its own right. Whereas South Duffield belongs to the parish of Cliff, this is its own thing. This is the parish of North Duffield. This Selby episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Completing the eastern edge of the Selby district today, we've got the lovely little North Duffield, located 4 miles northeast of Selby and 11 miles southeast of York. This is a very residential village, much like Hemingbrough. Whilst that stands on the A63, North Duffield stands on the A163, the major road linking Selby to Market Weighton. The River Derwent forms the eastern boundary of the parish, which covers an area of around 10,000 acres, making this one of the largest in Selby in terms of size. The village is tiny in comparison. There's a lot of infilling that's gone on here, and there are some brand new housing estates being erected. The growth of the population is something that clearly has happened in the last few years. In the demographics section of the video, coming up in a few moments, the population is given as 1,317. That was the population at the 2011 census, the latest data I have to hand. Estimates now put the population at well over 1,800, so in the space of a decade, lots more people have moved to this growing village. You could say things have gone north in North Duffield. In the centre of the village there's a massive village green, which has a picturesque little duck pond. The pond is referred to on some maps as the pit, and the green predates it. This little notice board shows the parish of North Duffield, and you can see from the map just how large the parish is in comparison to the village itself. All those surrounding fields have names, by the way. Agriculture is important here. North Duffield has always been an agricultural village. Situated where it is in the south of the Vale of York, this is an area of fertile soils and mild climate. No surprise then that it attracted local farmers to work the land. Perhaps of even more significance is the fact that the village stands on the seasonally inundated flood meadows of the River Derwent. As we walk up York Road, we get to look at one of the village's newest areas. This is the paddocks, a good example of some of the newer houses that have gone up in the last 10 years. And now we come to the playing field. North Duffield has its own village football team that play here, called the North Duffield Dragons. Okay, so we're on the playing field, and annoyingly there isn't like a little footpath which could link me back to another part of the village. I have to turn around here and go back. But if you follow the road beyond the playing field, which is over there, the hedge line is basically where the road is. You follow that, you will get to the old station, which I spoke about in the Skipwith episode. It's where that old train carriage is that's been turned into like a like a holiday let type of thing. You might remember it from the Skipwith episode. If not, go and check it out. Anyway, so this is the playing field. So we've got a football pitch over there. We've got obviously the hall, which I just took a shot of a moment ago. There's also a little play area. There appears to be a bowls green. I think it's a bowls green over there in the distance. Might even be a cricket pitch somewhere, but I don't see anywhere that could be potentially likely. It's certainly well served sports wise anyway. It's got a few bits and bobs, hasn't it? I'm just going to see if there's an adventure trail in this playground. There is, but there are people in there, so I don't really want to be recording me being a complete fool when there's people watching. Anyway, there's also a notice board, and that's where I'm heading right now. Mark off North Duffield, people. That's the eastern edge of Selby done. Speaking of boundaries, the village was historically part of the East Riding of Yorkshire until local reorganisation in 1974. The nearest East Riding village is Bubwith over the Derwent. A ferry dating back to at least the 13th century used to exist between Bubwith and North Duffield. These days there's a bridge. There were stock pens to hold livestock awaiting transport across the river on both sides. And speaking of holding stock, have a guess what this structure once was? Yep, this was the village pinfold. It seemed a bit low, this one, so it may have been lowered. These days it doesn't trap animals, rather it's a memorial to the late Nobby Clark. Open every day is the one and only village pub, which stands next to the green. This is the King's Arms, described as a traditional English pub on its website. Okay, it's a bit of an unknown, this part of the route. We follow the road that way and it sort of loops back on itself towards the primary school. No idea what's down there. What I do know is there's a bus stop here. If you need to get to North Duffield, you need service 18. You remember all those water pumps in the East Riding, right? There seems to be one in every village on the Wolds. It turns out North Duffield has one of its own. Something else North Duffield once had was a castle. The site of the castle is strongly believed to have been situated on the very edge of the Derwent floodplain at what is now Hall Farm. Next to pass is the village surgery. This is one of the practices that belongs to Escrick surgery, the registration district for which extends up into the city of York. It's a big area. Around the corner we have the old red phone box. This one is used to house the village's defib machine. I haven't seen a book exchange in Selby for a very long time now. Now this next thing needed very little research because the name of the house gives it away. That's North Duffield's old school, which dates from 1872. However, that's not all of it. There appears to be a second building which you can see behind this fence. This though was clearly not lived in and looked in a state of disrepair. A shame, as it's a magnificent building. You know, urban exploration has never been my thing. There's plenty of channels out there that do that kind of stuff. I'm not into it, but it still would be pretty cool to get inside a building like that and see inside and how it all was. It would be fascinating. Now, I have no idea who Lucy is, but her wildlife garden on Back Lane is absolutely stunning. I wonder if the ducks frequent this pond from time to time. Next is the village hall. This provides 2 rooms. The larger one is suitable for a variety of activities which can seat at least 100 people. The smaller room is ideal for holding committee meetings. The hall boasts a mobile stage, a large screen and a fully equipped kitchen. The hall also has the benefit of a large car park in which you'll find this recycling point. Always good to see. This next area is residential, so I'll use this opportunity to mention the North Duffield Conservation and Local History Society, where most of this episode's information came from. During the early life of the society, it recorded interviews from local people and some of the fast disappearing local farms in cooperation with the BBC as part of the Millennium Project. A booklet was then produced entitled Ducks Crossing, immortalising the signs warning drivers of ducks at the pond on the village green. It turns out the ducks could read better than some of the drivers. Sometimes the clues are in the street names. Behind me you can see a little cul-de-sac that goes off to the right. That's Chapel Close. I wondered whether that was the site of an old chapel. It's not. However, there is a chapel still standing close by. And there it is. There are two chapel buildings here. This is the older one. It has a date stone saying 1833. Next to this is a much larger and much grander building. The Methodist chapel is where you'll find North Duffield's war memorial. It's a stone tablet that's set into the wall. This is the only place of worship in the village, as North Duffield has no Anglican church. It does though have a shop, which I imagine, given the increase in population, is going to be here for a very long time. It doubles as the village's post office too. Okay, now we're on Broad Manor, which will take us past the current school, North Duffield Community Primary School. Continuing the duck theme, it has a nursery called Little Ducks. We've got this far into an episode and still not discussed the village's name. The English Place Name Society indicates that North Duffield is a name of Anglian origin dating to around 900 AD. Open land frequented by doves or the valley or place of oak trees are two suggestions. It's believed that Duffield derives from the same root as the Dur in Derwent, an ancient word for oak. Okay, this last bit of the route is a walk down the main road as far as Green Lane. We turn right up Green Lane and then we walk up Green Lane as far as a public footpath on the right, which takes me back to where I began about 45 minutes ago. This has been a nice walk, this. I've enjoyed North Duffield up to now. I don't know what's remaining in this last section, but hopefully there's something else of interest. Before we wrap this one up though, you guys are going to want today's picture bit, and here it comes right now. I thought this was neat. If you can't read what this says, because let's face it, it is pretty small writing, this says painted portraits of pets and people here. Only in the countryside, folks. North Duffield was in the news quite recently. In June of 2021, there was a massive fire at a plastics recycling plant close to the village, which took 6 fire engines and a water bowser to extinguish. And that's really all I've got to say about North Duffield. It's the former East Riding village that is still small but is ever growing, surrounded by farmland, and it has lots of links to ducks. Before we leave North Duffield behind, I have to mention the small hamlet to its immediate south. That would be Menthorpe. Earlier, before I walked around this village, I went to Menthorpe. It doesn't have a great deal. It's got a tiny population spread over an area the size of North Duffield village, but it does have something of great interest if you like railway history. So now we're in Menthorpe, and this is a very, very small place. In fact, I would imagine there's probably nothing more than about 10 houses here, and most of them are sort of down this road and to the left. There's only really one property I'm interested here, and that's the one you can see in shot right now, because that used to be a railway station, and the railway line used to run across this road here. And the railway line in question is the same one as you saw in the Bubwith episode and the Foggerthorpe episode in the East Riding. It's the same railway line, and the station was called Menthorpe Gate, and that's the station house. And that's taken me about an hour to walk around the parish of North Duffield. Well, the village of North Duffield. The parish is a much bigger area, isn't it? It covers quite a lot of land. You have to think that North Duffield is a small, tiny speck, basically, in what is a huge swathe of the east of Selby district. It's quite amazing how much land it gives its name to. But there you go. That's just how local councils work, I suppose. Time for me to move on to my next one here in Selby district. We're getting towards the end. There's only 15 more to go out here. I've been Andy, also known as the Verge Idiot. This has been the parish of North Duffield, and I'm out.